Hello and welcome to the Festival of Computing 2021, a unique collaboration between the University of Plymouth and Computing at School, and this session from the National Museum of Computing in Bletchley. My name is Beverly Clark and I'm the National Manager for Computing at School, and I will be your host for this session. Today I'm accompanied by Taylor, a student ambassador from the University of Plymouth, who's just waved at you, who's moderating the session, and he will also be moderating the question window. We're joined by our speaker today, who is Anne-Marie Langford from the National Museum of Computing. I will tell you a bit more about Anne-Marie once we get fully started. But before we do, I just have a couple of things to say. During this session, you will need access to a website to complete the activities with Anne-Marie, where you will be coding games and trying to get your best possible score, along with learning how young people coded back in the 1980s. So it's a fully interactive session, and I'm very much looking forward to this. As soon as I have finished speaking, I will post the link into the chat window for you to access. During the session, please, if you have any questions, pop them into the chat window. And then when you're able to speak to Anne-Marie, Taylor will be unmuting you to speak. So please do not attempt to unmute yourself or all speak at once. So Taylor will be keeping an eye on the chat window and he'll be very, very busy. As a reminder, you are all in listen-only mode. There is a copy today of any recordings will be available on the CAS YouTube channel after this session. If you are tweeting, the hashtag for the event is hashtag CASPLYM21. That's hashtag CASPLYM21. Please do tweet about the sessions, which many of you have already attended today and hopefully will continue to attend for the rest of the day. So our speaker today, as I mentioned, is Anne-Marie Langford. Anne-Marie has worked in the museums and heritage sector for around 20 years. These roles have encompassed learning with schools, families, and community groups in a wide range of settings, from historic houses, multidisciplinary museums, heritage sites, and archives. She recently created a remote learning program for the National Museum of Computing. Anne-Marie, over to you.
Hello, thank you so much to CAS and the University of Plymouth for hosting this conference. I hope you're all having as much fun as I had this morning when I was presenting to some teachers the remote learning programme. So today I have a bit of a challenge for you, and I'm guessing your teachers think that you are worthy of a challenge for signing you up to this. You are going to be creating a retro game of Snake, and it's going to be awesome, but I'm not going to lie to you, you are going to find it a challenge. So I'd just like to know where you're all from. What school are you from? Could you put in the chat which schools you're from so that Taylor can read them to me? Bourne, John Fisher, Rochester. That's quick. They're coming thick and fast, aren't they?
Exmouth.
Exmouth, Oxford. Fantastic. That's great. So it's great to be connecting with so many different schools. And I'm guessing that you're all pretty good programmers. Pretty confident? Are you pretty confident? Yeah? No. Well, the important thing is that you try your best and that you keep persevering. Obviously, there can only be one winner, but you can win in more ways than one. Just because you're not the winner with a capital W doesn't mean you can't win a personal victory by persevering or learning something new. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, when you visit the National Museum of Computing, you come to, I'm just going to share my screen. You come to this room here. This is our BBC classroom. And as you can see, it's got lots of vintage computers. And these are computers that were used in the 1980s. This is, in fact, the first computer I ever used in primary school. So students of your age in the 1980s, they would use these in schools, or if you were very lucky, your parents might buy you one, and they were really expensive. But what was more expensive was the games that went with them. Now, you could buy a game and it was about £20, in the 1980s, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but in the 1980s, the average pocket money was 50 pence a week. So you'd be saving up for about 6 months to buy a game. The other alternative is that you could program a game. Now, you could buy a magazine for about 20 pence, and inside that game, there would be a load of code. And then your job would be to type the code into the machine. So I'm just going to give you a demonstration here. I've already preloaded Snake. So there's the code that's already written in. So that is your game. You then type all of that in, which is what you're going to be doing in a minute. You then run the game on the link and you use the controls. It's A to go up, it's comma to go left, it's Z to go down, and it's full stop to go right. And as the game progresses, the longer you stay alive, the better. So your job today is to write that game of Snake, and you should have had coding cards sent to you, but if you haven't got them, no problem, we can give them to you now. And that's that. But first of all, before we get into the task, we're going to be using a BBC emulator today, and what you'll find is that your keys, especially your symbolic keys, aren't quite where you expect them to be. So I've sent through what I called my BBC mapping worksheet. You don't need a BBC mapping worksheet. You could do this on with pen and paper or in Notepad if you want, just to help you. Before we get into writing the game, what I want you to do is I just want you to go through your symbolic keys. So if I go Shift 1, that's okay. 2, that's okay. 3 is a hash. 4 is a $sign, so that's okay. 5 is a %. 6 is a ampersand. 7's a comma. 8 is a bracket. 9 is a close bracket. 0 is 0. So I need to find my other symbolic keys. So before we get started, I want to give you a few minutes just to go through your symbolic keys. Make sure that you know where they are. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that. And if anyone's got any questions, please ask them in the chat so that Taylor can tell me. Have you all found your symbolic keys now? Do you all know where they are? This is really important because when you're coding, you'll need them. Everyone's saying yes, they have. Taylor's given me the thumbs up, so I'm going to crack on. So the other thing that you need is to find, delete and copy. So again, this is not necessarily where you would expect it to be. So if I just type there, okay, my backspace key is great. That's all you get for deleting. There's no deleting forwards and backwards with backspace. You just get backspace. So my backspace is backspace. And then to copy, what you do is you use your arrow key to move up, and then you use another key, which you'll need to find to copy. Now, I think on my keyboard, it's insert. So it might be insert on your keyboard, or it might be something else. Your job is to find out. So if I go and find my code and I just go, it's not insert, it's end. So it's the end key on my keyboard. So it might be the end key on your keyboard. So once you've found that, give us a thumbs up, because that's going to really help you. Because if you make a mistake when you're coding, your options are rewrite the line or navigate, use the arrow keys to navigate up, and use your copy key, which isn't a copy key because you're not using a BBC Micro keyboard. It could be the N key, or it could be something different on your machine, to copy the line out again underneath. Okay, so before we get started then, has everyone had the programming card for the game of Snake? Let's have a wee look at the chat and see what everyone's saying. No. Okay, Taylor, do you have it? Can you send it? Or do you want me to send it?
So what do you need?
The worksheet for the game of Snake.
I don't have it.
And neither do I. So I think if you send it through to me, Anne-Marie, I'm happy to paste it in.
Okie dokie. Let me see if I could put it straight on the chat, actually. It would have been sent, well, I sent it to, I sent it out, hang on. Get link. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the screen so that you can make a start. Before I get to it, just stop sharing so you're not looking at this, but you're looking at me. Okay, so someone said it's in your emails. So go to your emails and pull out your programming cards. It was attached as a link to the email. So before we get going, I've just got some hints and tips to make sure that you know what you're doing. So the first thing is, this programming environment is unlike any programming environment you will have ever used before. It doesn't have, it's not an IDE. So there's some things that an IDE does for you that it will not be done for you. So the first thing is, it will not add line numbers for you. So you must add the line numbers, and the line numbers are at the beginning of every single command. So where it says 10, 20, 30, you must type 10, 20, 30. You must always use capitals for your commands. Otherwise, the computer won't recognize them as commands. We've already found our symbolic key, so hopefully we already know where they are, so that's great. And we've already found your copy key, so that's great, and your delete key. These are going to help you. But as I said before, because you're not in an IDE or a development environment, this is really rudimentary. What you have to do is you have your flashing block and you have your cursor. So your flashing block is where you insert your commands, and the cursor is, you can move up and down the text and you can copy that text, but it will go where the flashing block is. So this is programming 80s style. So while you're all finding your sheets, is there anyone that still needs me to send a sheet to them? And I will try and get that out. I can see it. I can't see how I'd send it to you. That's the only thing, because it's on my Google Drive. Taylor, is there anyone that still needs a programming sheet?
I think there's quite a few, but they get an access denied, and I've tried it myself and also getting access denied.
Right, okay, hold on.
Change the privileges on it.
Right, let's make sure you all get permissions. Oh, heavens. Oh, come on. Okay, right, that should have sorted out the permission situation. So if I can send the link again, I'll put it in the chat.
Yep, that's sorted.
Okay, so someone's saying they don't know how the emulator works. So when you pull up the emulator, it will look like, where's my screen sharing? It will look like this. Correct? So all you've got is a black screen and a flashing line. So all you do is you type the program into the emulator direct like this. And then when you finish writing the program, you type run and it runs. So that's how that works. Let's see, are there any other things I need to be aware of? Yeah, so click on the link. That's right, we've done the mapping now. We're going straight to the snake. So you don't actually need the mapping sheet. If you've got pen and paper or notepad, you could just make a note of where your symbolic keys are. It doesn't really matter as long as you know where they are.
How do you type the equal sign?
It depends on where the equal sign is in your keyboard. So you kind of need to hunt for it. So on my keyboard, the equal sign is
So I've just found the same issue as them. So guys, when you are on the keyboard, press shift and press the key next to the equal sign. So shift minus. And that should solve it.
Yeah. And shift minus is where my equal sign is as well. So that there's a good chance that shift minus is where your minus equal sign is as well. Okay, so the reason why they haven't assigned equals to equals is because we're running an emulator and the keys are mapped to the original BBC Micro keyboard. And the BBC Micro keyboard is set up completely, not completely differently, but a bit differently to a modern keyboard. There are different functions and what have you. So that's why there are some slightly different functions. There are some functions missing on the BBC Micro keyboard that we used to have on a modern keyboard and vice versa. So this is an extra challenge for you guys because obviously if you were using a retro keyboard, you'd be able to look at the keyboard and see where the keys are. But as it's an emulator, it is running the code using the modern keyboard layout, but the software, the program, is the BBC Micro program that is being run. How do you run it once you've typed in the code? You write run, R-U-N. How do you do a next line? So you hit your return key. So if I can just show you. Oops. Right, so now when I want to go to the next line, I hit the enter key and that acts as the return key. If, say, you made a mistake and you want to go back up to line 10, if you want to copy it, use your arrow keys to go up and then possibly the end key that will copy the line out again. And say you made a mistake, you can change whatever the mistake is. How are people doing? Have we got anyone coding any of the game yet? Someone's on line 5. Someone reckons they've typed it perfectly, which is brilliant. Okay, so with the block, you don't get rid of the block. The block is there. That's really important. That's an insertion point. But if the block is somewhere where you don't want it to be, or you want the flashing line to be somewhere else, use your arrow keys to move up and down. Yours runs. So Ben just said my snake runs, but is infinitely long. Well, that's brilliant, because you kind of want your snake to be really, really long. Does it crash? Do you die when it crashes? I'd love to see your code and see what's going on there. I don't know if you're able to send me a screenshot. What is the equals key? Benjamin asked. That's a really good question. That I don't know if you can send images, actually. Beverly, are they able to send images?
I don't believe they are at the moment,
If they take a screenshot, okay.
Well, actually, it does say file. They may be able to upload a file, yes.
If you take a screenshot and send it to me, a screenshot of the
look.
code. In order to get your code, if you're not able to see it, if you write list, L-I-S-T, and then return, that brings up your code. And then you do control print screen. And then you'll probably have to save it and then put it in the file.
Yes, files can be uploaded. So in the chat window, it says file, and you can choose to send the file to everyone.
Okay. So Tilly says, when I click on the link, it doesn't come up with the black screen. It has writing on it. Okay, so Tilly, to clear your screen, type CLS, and that will clear all the gubbins off your screen. And then you've got a nice clean slate. It's not the writing you've done. That's mysterious. Well, I have no answer to that, but CLS will clear it off, so you should be okay. Let's see, as anyone says, what is the equals key? You should be able to, so Beverly sent it, but I can send it out again. Hopefully you've all got this up and running now. When you use the arrows to move the dotted line, it doesn't move where you type. Okay, that's an interesting one. No, so let's kill that one. It's this one. Okay, so the way it works is if you move the arrows up, let's say I want to change line 90. You'll see I've used the arrow keys and my flashing line is under the 9. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy using my end key. And what you'll see is that 90 is being copied where the white rectangle is. That's the insertion point. So if I tap the N key, that is where it gets copied out. So your insertion point is not the flashing line, it's actually the white rectangle. Okay, hopefully a teacher will come and help you with that, Callum, because I don't really understand why your emulator's not working. If you've got it up, you should be able just to type, unless there's some reason why the keyboard isn't working there. Yes, so Charlie, BBC Micros make these noises. So if it is going ding ding, there's something a little bit strange going on. Now, if you're the gentleman that's saying you can't type, what you're probably finding is you're trying to type, are you trying to type the program without entering the line numbers? Because sometimes a computer objects to that. So don't forget your line numbers. Oh no, Callum can't do anything on the emulator. So is there a teacher in situ with Callum who can help him with his emulator? Because basically what you do is you go to the link, you call it up, you click on the screen and you type. How do you change where you are typing? So, okay, so the tricky thing is you don't. The white rectangle is the insertion point, and that is where you type. That is where your text goes. If you want to type in somewhere else, so say you've made a mistake on line 120, what you do is you navigate up to the line that you want to change using the arrow keys. So can you see I'm using my up key to go to line 120. I then use my end key to copy the line. And then say I've got a mistake in line 120, I'll change it. And then I'll use my arrow keys to go round and I keep typing. And that's how you change that line. Now, what happens is people will say, well, what happens then? You've got two line 120s. What happens is the last line 120 overwrites the previous line 120. So the previous line 120 doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, so what have you said? You said you've used keys instead of, so using the command list, you can view all your code to look at your code. Correct, excellent. Yeah, so you've wrote keys instead of key dollar. That happens, yeah? There's no shame in it at all. So what you need to do then is you need to go to where you've written keys instead of key dollar. So if you've done that for the whole program, you'll have to move your flashing line to line 30. And I'm going to try and demonstrate it to you now. There we go. So to line 30. And then we use our N key. We copy line 30, get rid of the S key, put in the dollar key, which on my keyboard is a 4. So it's the same. So that's brilliant. And then we use the arrow key to move to another part of the screen. And then we copy using the end key, instead trying to find it, the rest of the line. Then when we've done that, we need to go on to the next line. So the next line will be line 100. So you need to do that, correct that for each and every line. So essentially you're rewriting every line, but the quick way of doing it is to navigate your flashing line up, copy it, it will go underneath. And then if you type list again, you'll see that all the mistakes have been corrected. So how do you run it? Oh no, I think we've already answered that one. Let's see. I've used the image to text converter and then pasted plain text in the paste text bar or drop box here. Xbox.
It's basically he's copy and pasted the code in simple.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Great. Can I see it? Are you going to pop it in the file? Maybe you share it to me. Can't upload it. Oh, okay, that's a shame. Beverly, is he able to share it? Just, oh, here we go. Got it. Right, let's have a look. You got through that ever so quick, so that's really impressive. I'm just having a look at the code. I'm trying to find the code now. The chat is in a pop-up window. So, okay, so your first line looks good. Second line looks good. The third line looks good. Fourth line looks good. Fifth line, this is looking really good. Okay, so have you tried to run it? Ben, try to run it, and the way you run it is you type RUN in caps and then hit return. And then your game controls are A to go up, comma to go left, full stop to go right, and Z to go down. Ben's works, that's magnificent. Well done. So how do you move the white box, Will? So Will, you don't move the white box. The white box is your insertion point. What you need to do is move your insertion point. So no, not your insertion point, the cursor. So if I go back here, okay, so what you've got is, let's say you've made a mistake. Well, where have you made a mistake? You wanted to correct a mistake. Where's your mistake? Some of you are playing already. This is brilliant. Okay, so Dajako 81. Bear with me a moment. I'm sorting out Will, but I'm going to talk to you about why that's happening. So, Will, what line are you trying to get to? Can you tell me? Right. Dajako 81. So, okay, you've accidentally tabbed the white box onto a completely different line. So unless you're in the middle of writing a piece of code, it's not a problem. So if you finish the command, not a problem. If you're in the middle of a command, move your cursor up, copy the line using your N key, and then finish off the command. When you hit return, that line will overwrite the other line. Okay, so Dajako 81, if 0 is making your game crash, there is a problem with how it has been programmed. So if we go to the program here, I'll show you. Oh, I've managed to get that wrong. So I'm just going to reload the game because I've managed to overwrite a couple of lines of my code. Right, so there's so line 20, your controls, this is where your controls are listed. So L$ means left, go left, that's your comma. R$, that means go right, is your full stop. U$, that means up, is A, and D$ is Z. So if you're typing 0, what's probably happened, not 0, full stop. If you're typing 0 and it's crashing, what's probably happened is you've accidentally put 0 in, you've assigned it to left or another control. So if you redo line 20, that should sort it out. Great, we've got some great scores coming through now. This is awesome. You guys are doing so well. So we've got 127 seconds. That's magnificent. 115 seconds. 2 seconds, nothing wrong with that. You should feel pride in getting the game all inputted, because I tell you what, this isn't an easy thing that you guys are doing, especially in half an hour. So the 0 on mine looks different to the 0 on your screen. Is that bad? Okay, it might be, because something that the BBC Micro does is if it has pointy tops, that means it's a 0. And if it's more rounded, that means it's an O. So if you've typed 100 like this, and the tops of your zeros are more rounded, it means you've accidentally used an O rather than a 0. So Zeros should have not pointed tops, they should have lines through them. So if you've written 10, it should have a line through it. That way you know it's referring to a number. Great, we've got some great scores here. Okay, DeJaco says it won't let me assign the controls. Interesting. Can you copy and paste the code to me so I can have a look? Because without seeing the code, I don't know what's occurring. This is so exciting. I was seeing all these scores come in. Like, you guys are magnificent. Okay, yeah, so don't use caps, maybe.
Oh, I think he's trying to change the
yeah, I see what you're doing, and students do this all the time and it works. And I think either try and play the game with the caps locks on, make sure the caps locks are on. No case doesn't work either. Oh, I know what it might be. No, I don't know what it might be. I'm afraid without sort of looking at the whole program, I can't tell what it is. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to use the standard controls, which are the comma, the full stop, the A and the Z. Sorry. Yeah, but it looks like it's not working for you when you do that, which is a shame. But we've got some great scores coming in. Taylor, are you able to see who's got the highest? They're kind of sailing past quite fast for me. And because
I'll keep an eye on it.
Because I'm doing lots of other things. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on with this code.
Can you change the keys on the emulator? Do you know?
Yeah, you can. So I'm just loading the game again because I've overwritten it again. Okay, so yeah, to reassign the keys, what you should be able to do, but it sounds like someone's having difficulty with it, is you go up to line 20, and as long as it's all incorrectly, another thing you might want to try, DeJaco81, is you might want to just check.
Amory, we've got about 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes.
Have you? Check that you've got line 10 incorrectly. But line 20, you navigate up to that, you copy the line, $, and then W. So exactly as you've done it, it sort of looks like you've done it right, but there will be a problem somewhere in the program that I just can't see from my end without seeing there's some great scores coming in. Okay, guys, sadly, I have to wrap up. I'm so sad because you've all done a really magnificent job. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and remotely on a strange program with a strange lady. But you've all done a really magnificent job. So I hope you've really enjoyed it. Please join us at the National Museum of Computing. We're going to be having some retro games competitions around Father's Day. So visit the website and keep your eyes peeled for that. A little note for the teachers. We've got a Young Women in STEMs Day on the 24th of March. So if you want more information about that, get in touch. That's all completely free. And we have got bursary places for schools with high levels of PPG. So if you want to come and engage with us on a remote learning visit, but you're thinking, oh, finances, do get in touch. Okay, so yeah, so who got the highest score, Taylor? Can you see? Is it Jacob?
Looks like Jacob, yeah.
So magnificent, Jacob. But do you know what? Whether you got the highest score or not, I hope that you learned heaps and had fun. I guarantee you that it was frustrating and annoying, but I know that you all did a really great job. So well done, everyone. Over
Do
to
you want
you,
to end the
Edward.
session?
Hello, hi. So I'm just going to say a few words. Thank you so much to Anne-Marie and Taylor. I mean, Taylor, you're doing a blinding job there in the chat also, and to the students. You know, without the students, this wouldn't be the session that it has been. So that's a really, really important bit. And thank you for the teachers for signing your students off. Anne-Marie has offered next steps, and we'd really like to hear your stories about how you've been getting on afterwards. You know, do share this session with friends, because we will have it up on the Computing at School YouTube channel by next week. So, you know, do share it much wider. But that was really, really well done to everyone for getting stuck in, asking questions. You know, there's lots of debugging taking place there, you know, breaking things down. The computational thinking skills are really coming into play. So I was very impressed. Okay, so there's not much really to say. We do hope to see you at another session in the festival later on today. The next session on this student track is at 2 p.m. with a focus on coding challenges and JavaScript. And that is also the final session for the day. Please do speak with your teachers if you'd like to get signed up to that. And of course, if any of you are ever interested in becoming computing teachers, you know, please do get in touch. I'll say that, if my background is being a computing teacher. And I'll say that's it for now. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and hope to see you again soon.